Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are absolutely peeling back the curtain. We're taking a VIP tour of something that is, honestly, just truly mind-boggling. We are going to look at the immensely complex petabyte-scale distributed infrastructure that makes Uber work in real time. So whether you're a software engineer, a systems architect, or really just someone fascinated by how these massive tech giants operate behind the scenes, you're definitely going to want to take notes. We're breaking down the architect's playbook for scaling a global giant.
To really appreciate the sheer engineering marvel we're about to dive into, we first need to anchor our narrative to scale. Trillions. Just let that sink in for a second. Trillions. As of late 2020, Uber's infrastructure was processing trillions of messages and petabytes of data every single day. We're talking about constant, simultaneous streams of GPS pings, ride requests, food orders, and payment updates from literally all corners of the globe. At this kind of scale, even a tiny, seemingly insignificant inefficiency can snowball into a catastrophic system failure. So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the petabyte scaling challenge, then move to ring pop and distributing the app, explore the real-time data stack, talk about processing data in motion, and finally wrap up with surviving disasters at scale. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the petabyte scaling challenge.
You know when a company experiences true hypergrowth? The massive challenge is figuring out how to handle exponential data while maintaining incredibly strict service level agreements, or SLAs. Because every millisecond of latency translates directly to lost revenue and super frustrated users. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer variety of data feeding this beast. You've got raw data streaming in from mobile app events, sensor telemetry, things like phone gyroscopes and GPS, backend events, and database logs. All of this unstructured, high-velocity data flows directly into the central real-time infrastructure. It's essentially the central nervous system that empowers everything from surge pricing to fraud detection, all in a matter of seconds.
Moving on to Section 2, ring pop, distributing the app.
Imagine trying to track millions of ephemeral, real-time driver locations globally. It's wild, right? This is Uber's geospatial service, which is the very first layer of their matching system. Traditional databases, they are way too slow for data this fleeting. So to solve this massive load, Uber built an open-source Node.js library called ring pop. And the real secret sauce of ring pop is something called consistent hashing. Think about a regular office space for a minute. Imagine your specific manager suddenly quits. In a rigid, old-school system, HR might have to reorganize the whole office and redistribute every single employee to a new manager just to keep things even. That's a total nightmare. Consistent hashing is more like saying, well, if your manager leaves, you and your immediate teammates simply report to the next closest manager down the hall. Work just proceeds as usual. So when a server node goes down, the adjacent node just picks up the slack automatically. It vastly reduces latency. But you might be wondering, how do these server nodes actually know who is down the hall? Well, they use the swim gossip protocol. First, a node starts up, queries a list, and finds a peer. They exchange info and form a cluster. It works exactly like kids sharing a rumor on a playground. The nodes infectiously discover each other, continuously pinging back and forth. This way, every single node in the system always knows exactly who's online and who just dropped off.
So the crucial takeaway here is how this completely revolutionized the way Uber scales. Their old geospatial system kept all active vehicles in memory. It was, frankly, a total slowpoke. It was like a sweating turtle carrying the weight of the world, trying to search through every single car globally just to find one match. It just wasn't sustainable at all. Ring pop completely changed the game by partitioning the data, the nodes cooperatively and cooperatively. If a request hits the wrong node, ring pop uses a handle or forward pattern, automatically routing it to the correct destination without the main business logic ever breaking a sweat.
All right, Section 3, the real-time data stack. Let's move to and see how this builds into the flow of petabytes.
So we've talked about how the application nodes distribute work, but how on earth do they handle the actual flow of petabytes of data? They need a massive asynchronous messaging platform. Here is the holy trinity of Uber's real-time stack, and it's all built on some really powerful open-source heroes. First, Apache Kafka acts as the streaming storage. That's the massive pipeline taking in all the data. Then, Apache Flink sits right in the middle, doing all the heavy lifting of stream processing. Finally, the processed data lands in Apache Pinot, which is an OLAP database that serves up those lightning-fast analytical queries.
But here is where it gets super fascinating. Standard open source Kafka simply couldn't handle Uber's scale right out of the box. Uber had to heavily customize it. In standard Kafka, if a message gets corrupted, it might trigger indefinite retries, which literally blocks all the messages behind it. Uber solved this by implementing dead letter queues, basically shuffling bad messages off to a sidetrack so live traffic isn't clogged up. They also created federated clusters. This means users interact with one giant logical cluster, totally hiding the complexity of the dozens of physical clusters running in the background.
They also completely flipped how applications read data from Kafka, but building this consumer proxy. Open source Kafka is pull-based. That means applications constantly have to ask, hey, do you have new data for me? Uber's proxy shifts this to a push-based dispatching model. The proxy actually does the asking, and then actively pushes the messages right to the applications. This incredibly smart little tweak allowed for significantly higher concurrency and parallelism for all their downstream apps.
Which brings us to Section 4, Processing Data in Motion, the compute layer. This is where the magic really happens, where raw, unstructured streams of data are actively transformed into actionable business logic on the fly. Okay, let's dive into this concept. Stream processing is all about applying computational logic on top of continuous, never-ending streams of messages in real time. Instead of waiting around to gather a large batch of data at the end of the day to process it, you are handling each individual event the exact millisecond it arrives. Now, when Uber was deciding which tool to use for this massive job, they compared the biggest names in the open source world, and they looked at a specific scenario. When faced with a massive backlog of messages, a situation called back pressure, Apache Storm took several hours to recover. Flink, it took only 20 minutes. And when compared to Apache Spark, Flink consumed 5 to 10 times less memory. For Uber, Flink was the absolute clear winner. Honestly, it was no contest. But there's a catch. Flink requires writing low-level code, which creates a huge bottleneck if only your top-tier engineers can use it. So Uber built a layer on top called Flink SQL. And this just completely democratized the platform. It allows data scientists and ops folks to write standard SQL queries, which the system then automatically translates into complex, distributed Flink jobs. Because of this, someone can deploy a global, real-time streaming application in a matter of hours, without touching a single line of Java. Once Flink actually processes the data, it's served up via Apache Pinot and queried using Presto. What's truly vital here is Pinot's scatter-gather-merge approach, combined with pre-aggregation indices. Basically, it means that customer-facing dashboards, like the Uber Eats Restaurant Manager, where owners are checking real-time sales and hot menu items, are lightning fast. Uber also added a really unique upsert capability to Pinot, which allows them to instantly update existing records. Say, for example, correcting a ride fare in real time. Finally, Section 5, Surviving Disasters at Scale. Because look, when you process trillions of messages, hardware is going to fail. Power grids are going to go down. Providing business resilience and continuity is a massive priority for Uber. If a system failure happens, the financial and operational impacts are immediate and severe. Riders get stranded, drivers aren't getting paid, the food goes cold. Uber's core philosophy is that if an entire data center region goes totally offline, the global service absolutely must continue uninterrupted. To achieve this for high-stakes services, like surge pricing, they use an active-active setup. Now, what's really interesting about this setup is that Region 1 and Region 2 are both independently ingesting the exact same global data, running the exact same massive Flink jobs, and computing the exact same surge prices simultaneously. So if Region 1 experiences a total blackout, a coordinating service instantly fails over to Region 2. And because Region 2 has been actively computing that same data all along, there is literally zero downtime. And surviving at scale also means surviving your own bugs. Sometimes you push code that has an error, or maybe you need to train a brand new machine learning model on 6 months of old data. This is known as the backfill problem. Uber's architecture, which they've dubbed Kappa Plus, allows engineers to take their exact real-time streaming logic and easily rerun historical batch data right through it. They don't have to write and maintain 2 separate code bases for real-time and historical data. It is an incredibly elegant solution to a notoriously difficult engineering headache. And that brings us to the end of our explainer. We've seen exactly how Uber connects custom routing, like Ringpop, with a heavily customized open source stack of Kafka, Flink, and Pinot, just to conquer the petabyte challenge. The engineering choices here are all about prioritizing scale, democratizing access through tools like Flink SQL, and ensuring absolute bulletproof resilience. So the question I want to leave you with is, how can you take this architectural playbook and apply these open source principles to your own engineering projects? Thanks so much for learning with us today, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.